All right, today we're diving into a story that's going to mess with your head a little bit. It's all about the very act of reading, and it comes from this wild collection called the Catalogue of Unstable Encyclopedias. So let me ask you something. What if a book knew your future and wrote it down before you even lived it? I mean, really think about it. You find some dusty old encyclopedia, you're flipping through the pages, and bam, there's an entry for you. It's got your birthday, your job, and a date of death that's just a little too blurry to read. What do you even do with that? Well, for a scholar named Casimir Null, this wasn't some hypothetical question. It was real, and it became a total obsession. He finds this one line, a weird circular reference. For further information, see Casimir Null. And just like that, he's off on the hunt for a book that by all accounts shouldn't even exist. So yeah, that's what we're getting into. An impossible book and the guy who just couldn't let it go. So who is this Casimir Null guy? Well, he's not your average academic. He's totally driven by what he calls the encyclopedic impulse. You know, the dream of that one single perfect book that contains all knowledge, the one that would make every other book totally redundant. It's a pretty noble goal, if a little intense. But here's where it gets really weird. The book he's looking for? It's not an encyclopedia of what is, it's an encyclopedia of what isn't. It's called the Ouroborian Codex, and it's a catalog of everything that's impossible, non-existent, or just flat-out contradictory. And somehow, in this book of things that can't exist, he finds an entry for himself. How does that even work? So you can probably guess where this is going. His search for an impossible book leads him to a pretty impossible place. He gets this super cryptic tip from a bookseller who tells him, "The library is what you find when you fail to find what you were looking for." You see, you can't just go there. You have to be looking for something else, something totally normal, and then get lost in just the right way. It's a place you find by accident, by failing to get where you were trying to go. And that's the whole deal with this library. It's called the Library of Forking Catalogues. It's one of those classic spatial paradoxes, way bigger on the inside than it looks from the outside. And its collection, it's not just infinite, it's aggressively infinite. We're talking every book that has been, will be, could be, or even can't be written. Some books literally flicker in and out of existence depending on if someone's reading them. Just wild. And the welcome he gets is, well, it's just as bizarre. The librarian tells him that time here isn't a straight line. Nope, it's a collection, all organized by Dewey Decimal. His arrival? Oh, that was already shelved under paradoxes, self-fulfilling. And get this, his entire file, everything he will ever read in his entire life, is already sitting on a shelf. The conversation they're having right now, it's already in the file. Mind-bending, right? And then the librarian drops the big one, the really chilling part. The Codex? It's not some book you can just pick up and read. Oh no, it's a book that reads you. It's an active process, and at this very moment, it's reading Casimir. It consumes its readers, literally writing them into its own pages as they look for it. The hunter becomes the hunted, the reader becomes the read. So how do you deal with something like that? To even have a shot at understanding this thing without getting, completely erased and absorbed, Casimir has to learn a whole new way of reading. He has to become what they call a null class reader. Now, think about how we normally read. We see a sentence, and our brain kind of picks one meaning, right? Well, a null class reader, they don't do that. They refuse to pick. They manage to hold every single possible meaning of a text in their head all at once. It's like a quantum superposition of interpretation, this shimmering cloud of pure potential. And the way you get there is through something called the discipline of erasure. It's basically reverse reading. First, you read a book. You have to understand it completely, every single piece of it. But then, and this is the tricky part, you have to actively let go of its meaning. You release it from the words until the text just dissolves. The page becomes blank. You literally read a book out of existence. Okay, so now he has this totally impossible skill. And with it, Casimir is finally ready for the endgame. This is where the line between him and the book he's been chasing just completely disappears. Another student in the library, a character named U, just the symbol, gives him that last critical piece of the puzzle. They tell him, look, the question isn't if you're going to become part of the Codex. You already are. It was never a choice. The only thing he gets to decide is whether his story is going to be a tiny footnote or a whole chapter. And that really sums up the whole journey, doesn't it? He started out looking for a thing, A book that contained everything. What he found was a process that was becoming everything. He was looking for a text to read, but he found a condition of being read. He wanted an answer, but what he got was a much better question.
So, what's the final test? It's called the ordeal of self-inscription. He has to write his own entry into the codex. But here's the catch. It has to be a paradox. It has to be a piece of writing that creates itself while you're reading it and then erases itself at the exact same time. And so he begins to write. He starts by completely denying he even exists. He writes, "This entry is false. Casimir Null does not exist. The name is a placeholder for an absence." He's basically defining himself as a void, a nothing that's just pretending to be a something. But then, in the very next breath, he flips it completely on its head. He writes, "The previous statements are also false. Casimir Null exists absolutely. He is true and false simultaneously." He doesn't just accept the paradox, he becomes it. He fully embraces being both true and false at the same time. And what happened? The ink was absorbed as soon as he wrote it. The words erased themselves as they were being inscribed. He did it. He wrote a self-consuming truth. And when he was done, the paper was blank. He passed.
So, what is he now? What does all this make him? Well, he's not a scholar anymore. He's not just an entry in some book. He's become a living impossibility. He's not the reader or the text. He's the act of reading itself, made real. A walking, talking contradiction that has literally escaped the book and is now out in the world. Which leaves us with one last kind of unsettling thought, right? You just listened to this whole story. You took it all in, you participated. And if the logic of the codex holds true, well, the act of reading is also an act of being written. So now that this explainer has been read, what is it written about you?